Okay, so Lotus Squad, welcome back to Sage Lotus Tarot 888. Today, we're going to start this one off calm, cool, and collected because I wanted to give you guys an update in regards to my little brother. Now, before I get into what I'd like to share with all of you, this video's intention is purely to find the truth and to share what it is that I've discovered, my thoughts and feelings on the matter, and hopefully whoever sees my video who has gone through similar things or is going through something similar or knows someone who is going through something similar that I am currently going through, hopefully I'd be able to help someone along their journey to also seek the truth if they have any sort of doubt about what they're being told. Hopefully it will lead people to feel like they have the courage to come out and share their story. And maybe hopefully have some light be shed upon their own situations in kind. So that's the purpose of this video. This is not to hurt anyone on my mother's side of the family, nor is this meant to hurt anyone that is on my little brother's dad's side of the family. We are all grieving. And while we are all grieving, we all also have the right to know what's really going on. And so with this video, not only am I seeking to hopefully help someone else out there who's going through this or knows someone going through this, but I also want the truth because something is not right. So the reason for this video is not just to get out how I feel about the matter, but it's also meant to hopefully help me find someone that can lead me in the right direction, to lead me and guide me in a way to where I'd be able to find people who could help with this situation. Because the position that I'm in, I'm sorry, but I feel like I'm in a desperate position to try to figure out what happened to my little brother. Now, I'm going to share with you all everything leading up to that day. And then leading up to the day I even got the call. So this was around December 2023. Me and my mother had talked for the first time in a few years. I had made the decision not to speak with her because on May 2nd of 2022, I was run over by a vehicle, went to the hospital. Honestly, that I know that was something that I should have died from. And when I told my mother about it after it happened, the first thing that she said was, I hope or I should get a life insurance policy on you. That was the first thing that was said. Not, I'm glad that you're okay. Not, I'm glad that you're alive. Is there anything I can do to help? None of that. Now, I want to put a sidebar here and say that, when me and my mother would talk and she would tell me about whatever was being said amongst other family members and her, she would always make it a point to tell me that she made it clear to these so-called family members that they can ask me anything and I will tell the truth. And that's spot on. But now in this situation, the reason why I'm taking it to social media is because I've tried to reach out and talk about this. I've tried to ask questions. but I was forced to have to figure everything out on my own. So I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from as well. Now, with that said, I hadn't talked to my mother in a few years because of that comment. I just couldn't look past that comment. I just couldn't believe. I mean, even if it was a thought, right? Why say it? You know what I mean? For me, if it was me hearing that someone close to me had almost died, the first thing I'd be like was, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you okay? Is anything broken? What's going on? Do you need me to come out there? Like, what do you need? That would be the first thing on my mind and what's said. So I'm just giving you context as to why we weren't speaking, so you understand everything leading up to that day. So, of course, it's hard for me not to talk to my parents. It's never been easy. I've always done all the reaching out. And that's a fact. I have no reason to come on here to make up lies. And so I feel like I have to come on social media to not only get it out and document it for myself and to share my story, to maybe help someone else at the same time, but I've tried to reach out to my parents for years. And before I get into everything all the way, let me just say this one more thing. I was not the perfect daughter. I have made so many mistakes and poor choices throughout my life. And this I understand. And I've done everything in my power to at least try to create some sort of dialogue, try to atone for my mistakes and my poor choices in life. Try to discuss these things and have an open, honest communication between me and my parents. And I finally got to the point to where I'm no longer chasing. I'm not going to do it. Because I had to realize that I am responsible for my own life and for my own peace and maintaining that peace. And in order for me to do so, as hard as it's been to stay away, I made that choice to stay away. Now, of course, I was missing my brother. I didn't want to reach out to my brother and get him involved in the drama or have him be part of anything. And that was hard for me. That was very hard for me. And of course, you know, I will always have love for my parents, no matter what our differences are. And I've tried to express how I feel to them, to no avail. It's like it always gets turned around on me, and they can't just own up to the fact that I'm still upset about some things. Now that I'm working on healing myself, there are going to be emotions that come up with that. And it's been the same dynamic since I was a child. And I didn't make this video to complain about my parents. I'm just giving you context as to why I feel the need to take this to my channel and get it out somehow and maybe help someone along the way. So, with all that context laid out there for you, this is why I'm doing it this way. I even called my mother recently to let her know after I got that case report and autopsy report. I let her know that I was sorry for being accusatory. I have to admit, after that comment, I'm sorry. Like, now I'm looking at like, okay, did you have something to do with this? Or, you know, and I don't feel good about that, but there were reasons for that. But I was woman enough to put my pride aside and apologize for that. Because it's hard enough as it is on everybody. And I understand that. And just because I felt that way doesn't necessarily mean it was okay to say. But I also am understanding of my own side as well as to why I thought that. So I apologize, wash my hands of it. But now, with more time that I've had to think things through, things are not adding up. So this is why I'm telling my story here, okay? So back to the point. Back in 2023, I believe it was between October and December of 2023, I reached back out to my mother because I was in a very dark place. I went from being homeless, you know, because I didn't have a job during COVID. I couldn't, get back on my footing. I wasn't in a good place either. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I wasn't living right. And the place that I had held down for about 7 to 8 years, I ended up having to leave. And my mother knew about this, and there were some things where I tried to see if I could stay with her. She the first thing she said with that was she was going to ask her husband if I could stay there. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way, but damn, I am your daughter. You're not going to at least try to, because I felt like maybe it would be better for me to get away from the bad influences and the people that I used to frequent and the things I used to do and be with family. That was initially my thing, and then work my way back up to getting out. That was another thing that led me to not speak to her for so long. But anyhow, so back in 2023, I, of course, reached back out to her because I was doing better in life. I had pulled myself out of homelessness. Thank God for the people that helped me along the way. But I did the work. I had to replace, I had my ID stolen, my social stolen, all of that. And had to basically start all over, I wasn't talking to my mother either, so couldn't get those documents, whether I asked or not. But I had, even though it was a crappy situation where I ended up with this apartment, but I ended up getting back into another new apartment. And I'm not going to go too much into detail about that situation, but it was a pretty rushed, thrust upon me type of situation. I was trying to stack up money and take that time to do it, but the person I was staying with ended up doing something irrational, ended up in jail, and so I had to hurry up and figure it out. Now, granted, my mother did help, with certain things with that. She helped me with a little money for that. But I was also working a new job I had just started after coming out of a situation where, sabotage was involved. Let's just put it that way, with one of my exes. And so anyhow, I reached back out wanting to share my good news and tell her I was doing better, because I knew I wasn't living right for a while there. And I didn't feel good about it. Still don't feel good about it. I no longer beat myself up over it like I used to, and like everybody else was tending to do at the time. But, and granted, not to say I didn't deserve that, but the point is that there's a certain level where, you don't surpass. And I feel like it was surpassed multiple times on the extent and the intensity behind, just kind of throwing things in my face that I've, done throughout my life, as if I haven't already apologized for these things and tried to make changes. You know what I'm saying? Now, there have been times where I've said some hurtful things were said to me back, or vice versa. I'm trying to express something to them, I would get dismissed. It would get turned around on me. And then, of course, it would lead to a reaction. So please understand, I'm not acting like I'm innocent in all of this, but I'm self-aware enough to know where I went wrong, and woman enough, is the point I'm trying to make, woman enough to come out of my own mouth without being prompted to apologize for what I've done. And I've been doing that for years, and enough is enough at this point. Especially with me hearing from other family members some of the things that have been said behind my back. Instead of talking to me directly and trying to reconcile, as I've tried to do throughout the years, I'm still hearing all blatant lies mixed in with exaggerations of the truth, and then making themselves look as though they haven't done anything. Like I don't have a right to still be upset about certain things, especially when these certain things are triggered by recent events and recent things that have been said and done, or not done and not said, even in some cases. So I'm setting the tone so you know my end of things, the purpose of this video, and the dynamic. Because when I reached back out with that good news, granted, she did help me a bit, I'll admit, there was a point in time with that entire situation when I got my new apartment that just, it messed me up. It did. I had to get in the middle of a friend of mine trying to hurt his girlfriend at the time. Like he was really trying to do something to her. For real, though. And I'm waking up to all this. I had to get in the middle of it. Coming to find out she's going around lying, acting like I left her for dead and all this crazy stuff. And seeing him acting that way. And we're supposed to be working together as a team so we can rebuild our lives and shit. And just seeing that now, I'm having to clean up the mess of that. And they're in jail and all this crazy shit. And the things I had to see and hear, with that situation, I admit I backslid. And I did not hide this. And we were talking for a little while, but I have to admit something here. That comment still was in the back of my head, even though I was wanting to reconcile at the same time. And when I was down and out, stressed out, trying to, upset, not handling things the right way, I will admit, I realized that there were still emotions that came up every time I talked to my mother. And it's the same feeling. It's a weird gut feeling in my stomach every time I talk to her. Feeling as though, she would take up for everybody else's opinions or viewpoints and feelings on things. But then when it came to me, no acknowledgement. Or trying to act as though I'm just tripping it's like, but yet you're understanding to people you don't even know when I'm explaining things about what I'm dealing with these people, just little things like that. And eventually, me being triggered with all of that, some things came out of my mouth. Now, granted, I'm not proud of these things, but I know where they come from. And I've apologized. Not that apologizing necessarily makes things right or changes things or is supposed to miraculously make someone want to talk to you or whatever. I get all that. But at the same time, it's like, I'm tired of being viewed or perceived or spoken about as though I have no reason for the feelings that I have here. I have no reason to be saying certain things that I'm saying when I'm expressing how I feel about the way I've been treated and all of that. So with all that in mind, I get that maybe my approach wasn't the best, but I tried to have a real open conversation as I have for years. And it just, unfortunately, it's just not what's going to happen. And I had to accept that, right? So me going back to her this final time, I actually spoke to my brother. That was our last conversation. This is why I'm setting the tone for everything, because it all is connected. That I asked to speak to my brother. Hey, is my brother there? This is before we stop talking again. I know this is a little bit all over the place, but you know what? I'm doing the best I can. I don't have a script. I'm just going off the top of my head. And it's a very emotional, sensitive sort of topic for me. So pardon me if it's a little jumpy. But, the conversation I'm talking about is when I went back and spoke to my mother once I got this new apartment. Before all that extra stuff that I told you about how I got the apartment and all that, we had a conversation. This was right when I moved in with this person, before that crazy stuff happened, right? And this was before I had acknowledged the fact that I was still upset about that comment that was said a year prior about when I had that accident and all of that. So we're having this conversation, right? I'm telling her this good news, right? About the new apartment and, I finally have a new job. I'm not, partaking in some of the substances I was partaking in at the time. I actually was, I pulled myself out of homelessness. I did it on my own, all of that. And so, of course, every time I spoke to my mother, I would always talk to my brother and tell him that I love him. And tell him, all these things that either I was doing at the time or showing him how to do things on his own when it comes to his channel, which, I've seen some things on that channel and on his page that are very questionable, and we'll get into that in a minute. But, I did my very best to be supportive with my brother and show him that I loved him and show him that I'm there for him and that I'm going to do my best to lead by example, even though I faltered a few times. I'm not proud of that. But again, I'm not going to sit up here and act innocent when, we're all not perfect, right? So I'm just being transparent, right? So anyhow, I always talk to my brother. So of course I asked my mom, hey, is my brother there? Can I talk to him? And we talked, because I keep thinking about, this was the last conversation we had. I kept thinking about, and I told my brother I loved him. I apologized to him for not being around because me and my mother weren't speaking at the time. And I didn't want him to get involved. I couldn't get into the details of why me and my mother weren't talking because I didn't want my brother in the middle of it. I didn't want him in the middle of that. But I also wanted him to know, that I also knew about my own mistakes that may have affected him or the family. And I apologized to him for that. I apologized for, not being around as much. It was because me and my mother weren't speaking at the time, and that I loved him and that I was proud of him, and that, just keep doing what you're doing, do well in school. I asked him how everything was. Everything seemed to be fine. Then there was a point in time in the conversation, the guy I was staying with at the time, this was an old friend of mine, or so I thought, was a friend. We had known each other for years, is my point. He had seen me on my best times. He had seen me at my worst times and didn't leave. And so, that type of loyalty, that's hard to let go of. But, there was a point in time in the conversation where I let this person speak to my mother because this person had met my grandfather years ago. And my grandfather told him to take care of me. And ever since then, that's exactly what he was doing. When I needed a place to stay, he came through. So, mind you, I'm holding this person in high esteem. He had already met Papa. Okay. And Papa was it messed me and my brother up when we lost Papa. But back to the point, I kept this person around because I felt like this person was honoring my grandfather's wishes. And that meant a lot to me. Now, back to the conversation, there was a point in time where he took the phone outside. Like he was talking to my mom in front of me and my brother in front of me. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, he decided to step outside. And I'm thinking, okay, why would he do that? I didn't, I don't know if he decided to do that or if somebody told him, hey, can I talk to you in private? Because when they came back, supposedly there were comments made about me by my own mother talking about I'm difficult and all this stuff. No. And I wasn't the one that messed up that situation, that roommate situation either. So if I was a difficult one, I would be the one causing the difficulties, not the one getting in the middle of the ones causing difficulties. Do you see what I mean? So it's always like that. Why is it that you're telling other people all of these incorrect things about me, your own daughter, but you can't have a conversation with me? And it's been like that since the beginning. But of course, they're my family, and it's a hard thing to let go of. But I've grown to the point, I've done so much inner work that I've gotten to this point. It wasn't easy, but back to the point. So when he stepped away, I have no clue what was said. We were drinking. We weren't drunk, but I'm just saying we were drinking, having a good time. We're grown, and I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Maybe he's talking about me or maybe he's talking about how he feels about me or whatever. I don't know. Because we've always had a thing for each other. Okay. Let's just be real. Okay. And that's been going for years. Like it's been years that we've always kind of gravitated to each other like that. But the point is, okay, I didn't think anything of it because I'm trusting this person. Now, I'm not trying to put anything on them or anything, but it just strikes me as odd because when everything transpired, and I got that call September 20th of 2024. Of course, I'm starting to think about everything. So let's get back to the conversation, right? So then he brings the phone back to me. My brother says, I like him and all that. And it's kind of weird because that's what my grandfather said. So I said, okay, maybe I can let my guard down and just, trust that this situation is going to be okay. Now, I will say this. When I moved into that apartment, guys, drop it in the comments below if you'd like to hear this part. I know I'm going on, on and on, but this needs to be said in full, And I will say this, like, when he came back with the phone, I got back on the phone. My brother said he liked him, all this stuff. And so, I'm thinking, okay, I can let my guard down. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go hang out. We hang up the phone. Everything's cool. Now, fast forward through that, not even a month later, that's when every shit hit the fan, right? That's when I'm getting in the middle of this person that spoke to my mother and my brother, on top of his girlfriend trying to harm her. Now, we already discussed it on this channel. This is about my little brother, but I'm setting up everything leading up to the event so I can make sense of it, so everyone else can kind of understand like why I'm thinking the way that I am and all of that, right? So fast forward to that situation, and then I'm seeing things and hearing things. It's very triggering. You know, he's on top of her trying to choke her and all this crap. I'm having to get in the middle. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. I don't know what the fuck, So I backslid. And mind you, my brother was still around. This is still 2023 after that phone call and this situation where I had to get in the middle of him and his girlfriend at the time and all this other stuff. And so, and especially just with that situation, it was messy. You know what I mean? He was acting like that wasn't his girlfriend, but then I started noticing that they were living together and all this stuff. And so not only was there betrayal with that aspect, but then it's like, why are you talking to my mother and in private and like all this? It's just everything after living with this person, everything for the second time. It's like, I don't even know who this person is. Like, and then it's like, you're talking to my mother and it seems like y'all are coming. It's like, it's weird. It's very weird. And it's sketchy. It's just sketchy to me. Cause it's like, you don't even know my mother. Why? And then you're listening to her talk about I'm difficult and all that. What are you So of course people are going to listen to her because they're like, okay, that's her mom. Why would she lie? But they don't know. They don't know how she is. They don't know that my own family members are coming to me telling me about some things that have been said behind my back by my own mother. They don't know this. And they probably wouldn't believe it because it's like, what parent would do that? But they sure love to use the fact, well, I'm her mother. But you don't you're not acting like one. You haven't really been supportive in that way. You don't tell people about what I've been through. Now, you told my brother that, she was making it as a joke, acting like, I used to beat her butt and all this other stuff. And laughing about it, and I'm laughing along, but really in the back of my mind, I'm like, this shit is not funny. But she admitted it to him. But when it comes to other people and how she's viewed, now all of a sudden, I'm the problem. Like, come on. No. So, again, I'm just setting the tone. So fast forward, right? We have that conversation. That was the last conversation I had with my brother. I told him, he said he loves me too. Now, there was one part of this conversation that I want to point out with my brother and my mother. My brother said something before he before he gave the phone back to our mom. He said, gang, gang. And I was like, at first I didn't hear him. So I said, huh? And mom repeated what he said. And I was like, hold on, like, knowing me, I'm going to say something, because I always have. I always said, hey, little brother, make sure, that you are, doing well in school, pay attention in school, make sure, you figure out what it is that you love to do. I'll help you if you like to create, if you're creative or whatever it is that you have goal-wise or dreams, whatever dreams you have, you can aspire to do them. Just work hard, make sure you stay out of trouble. Don't be out here acting a fool like I did, different stuff like that. I always made sure to do that. Because that's what Papa did with me. So I wanted to make sure not only am I honoring Papa, but I'm taking care of my sibling, even though I'm way out here. So, of course, Mom knows this. Mom knows that I always talk to him like that. So I immediately said, hold on, what do you mean gang, gang? And you're only 17 years old? And you know what Mom said to me? Oh, well, that's what he likes. Okay, why are you arguing with me about the fact that I am obviously and understandably concerned that he's saying gang gang at 17 and nobody's saying anything to him about it? And then you're arguing with me because I'm concerned about it? And you're saying that's what he likes? He was 17. What do you mean that's what he likes? He shouldn't like that. Somebody should be telling him that's not okay. Again, didn't think anything of it. I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess Mom's got it. But I'm not gonna lie to you. it's always sat in the back. I'm like thinking, why is she arguing about that as if I said something out of pocket? When that's the right thing to do. Because if you're seeing your child say gang gang, the first thing that I would hope a parent would say is, hey, no, hold on. What do you mean gang gang? You're not supposed to be involved in that. This, and this are the consequences that could come from living that lifestyle. We're not going to have you do it, instead of saying that's what he likes. Now, again, I'm sharing this for a reason. I'm trying to figure out how the hell we got here. And at the same time, tell you what we discussed, how everything led up to that date, and so on. So fast forward again. I ended up not being able to afford that apartment after a while because it was damn near $2,000 a month. And I had to do it by myself, didn't have time to save because of the crappy situation on how I had to finagle my way in there anyway. Wasn't happy about that. I was paying my bills, but then they started switching dates and so they put it earlier. That whole situation was a mess. And again, this is about my little brother, so let's come out of that. But the point is, I'm telling you what I'm thinking as I go, right? Okay, fast forward to 2020 for the midsummer of 2024. This is during Hurricane Beryl, the hurricane before that out here. And this was around the time that I ended up leaving my place to stay and having to hop from place to place at this point. I'm stressed out. I'm feeling like every opportunity. I even got a really, really good job offered to me right on the day that it was supposed to start. Literally, the day of the very hour the power went out when I was supposed to start that job. Now, I don't know if maybe I dodged a bullet with that job. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what, I had worked really hard to get there, was really pissed that I went and did the drug test. I went and did, had to pay for the drug test and all that, And, well, actually, no, I didn't have to pay for it. But the point is that I had to pay to get up there to go take the drug test is what I'm trying to say. But the point is, I made a lot of effort, had to fight to establish that. Then I ended up having to move out of my place and trying to scramble and figure out what the hell am I going to do with this new job. I have to be in a place that's, I can't be hopping from place to place. I need stability so I can work this job. But then the storm came, right? Fast forward. I'm back in a position where I'm backsliding again. Because I'm like, damn, no matter how much work I put in, I'm not getting anywhere. And I started, being a bit more negative than I probably should have been. But, I mean, think about it. We all have our own ways of dealing with things. I know how to deal with these types of things now better, but at the time, it was just too much for me. I was still working through a lot of things that I had never addressed to begin with behind why I first started doing substances and all that stuff. I'm finally confronting everything at once. All these feelings and complex emotions all at once while I'm navigating life and trying to survive and trying to make sure I'm not starving by the end of the night and trying to make sure I'm not on the street again because that was a terrible experience. So just all this on my own and not really having family like that as support and not having that as support, I'm pretty sure it would take a toll on anybody too. It's like I've never really gotten that grace from family on that. It's like, come on now. Now, not once did I hear anything good about me coming out of homelessness, getting a job, finding a place. It's like, damn, but you got everything to say when I make a mistake though, right? That's where we are. That's what it's been. And fast forward to midsummer 2024 and all this stuff. And so I'm just, again, setting the tone so you understand my mind frame and my emotional state and what I'm dealing with at the time. Fast forward to September the 20th. I'm still struggling. Backsliding even harder because I ended up not talking to my mother again. And I did take it too far in certain aspects. Certain things don't always need to be said, and I understand that. But, I was upset, and I'm not proud of the things that I've said. But at the same time, the majority of what I said, outside of the scope of my anger and the way that I'm wording things, everything that I said was true. Every word. And it was just like, it didn't matter. Oh, whatever. Like that's how it's received. Oh, whatever. Or that was in the past. Yes, in the past, but I'm having to deal with it now. I have a right to still feel the way I do. I've never been able to express myself with y'all. So how else do you expect? You think these emotions are not going to come up? They're going to come up. And then you adding fuel to the fire, not really addressing what I'm telling you and how I'm feeling, but you're acknowledging and addressing everybody else's feelings and opinions about me, but not saying anything about where I'm coming from. What the fuck? So I'm seeing that you have the ability to be supportive of other people's viewpoints, even if they differ from your own. But when it comes to me, I don't get that. When it comes to me, you got to talk behind my back to other family members and all this other shit, but you can't talk to me. That's where we're at. So, September 20th is when I get this phone call from my mother. And mind y'all, my mother has never reached out to me in this way. And listen, I have witnesses and I have screenshots, bro. I have been the one that's always initiated conversation. This time, she hit up my website on Wix, which it's like, damn, you didn't even hit me up on Wix when I was doing my fucking channel consistently. Damn, but you use it for this. Then you email me. She's never done that before. It must be serious. And then she's calling and leaving. It's like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? And I was like, well, damn, she's never reached out to me before. It must be something going on. Must be something serious. But mind you, I'm not really thinking anything of it. So I reached back out to her. And when I tell you, when she told me my brother had passed, it was like there was no emotion behind what was said. No tears, no emotion. I'm just going to keep it a beam with you. There was no tears, no emotions. Mind you, I'm fucked up at this point. Blindsided, crying, screaming, confused, asking questions. What happened? Do you want to know what my mother told me? Well, since I don't want to express the details of the case because I do feel like it needs to go into investigation if it isn't already in the midst of investigation, but I will not be discussing the necessary details here on this video, just in case that may cause conflict. Well, I'm not finna mess up that because I feel like it needs to be looked into, but I'll say it like this. After I got the case report and autopsy report a couple days ago, and it's, mind you, what day is it today? Today, I think, is the 19th. It's Saturday, April 19th, 2025, right? Okay, a couple days ago, I had to fight, by the way, to get the case report and autopsy report that I had got or purchased back in December 30th. I had to call, don't even get me started on that. But I'm like, what the fuck? You should have had this information to me. I paid, why do I have to pull, it's like pulling teeth. Y'all know I paid $20. Then they were trying to tell me I paid only $11. No, I paid $22. Now they got to go confirm. It's like, yo, something's not right. Somebody's trying to hide something. And the reason why I bring up what my mother told me about the situation during that call on the 20th, she told me she didn't know all the details, but she knew maybe one or two things. He went to his friend's house, something. And then now we're here. I don't know the details. I don't know who's involved. I'm asking, who was he with? Nobody can answer anything. Now, here's the kicker. After we get off the phone and my mother tells me, I don't want to lose another child. And, because I wasn't living my life the best at that time. I'm going to be honest with you. There's no reason for me to sit here and lie, right? So, of course, that made me feel worse than I already did. Not blaming anybody on that because I made the choice to do these things to try to cope. I didn't know any other way. I mean, I'm not going to make excuses, but the point is that, it stuck with me because I'm like, dang, that's part of why I already feel bad. Because I used to feel guilty while doing it. Because I didn't feel good doing it. Never really did feel good doing it. I mean, it simulated feelings of feeling good, but deep down, I didn't feel good about it. A lot of guilt, and hearing that, I don't want to lose another one. But the way that was said was, okay, again, no emotion. And then on top of that, if you really fucking felt that way, why didn't you say anything when I was in the midst of the worst part of it? When y'all saw me skinnier than skinny, dying, nobody said shit except Papa. Now they'll try to tell you they did. No, you didn't say no. We need to come together as a family and figure this out. You didn't really reach out. Like, come on, let's be real about it. Be real about it now. Now, when it's about them, now all of a sudden I'm making up lies. But mind you, earlier in this video, I told you, my mother made it clear to me that when she speaks to other people and when it comes to me and asking me something, that I was always telling the truth. Okay, so if you know that, why is it that when it's about you and the treatment of me by you, now all of a sudden I'm lying? That's where this anger and hurt is coming from. The years of not being heard and understood. That's where we're at. Now, on top of it, the loss of my brother and nobody knowing anything now. Well, I'm not going to say nobody, but me and my mom are talking. So, of course, she's not going to tell me anything, right? Then, here's another comment that was very strange to me. She said, hey, auntie such and such and cousin so-and-so. I said, yeah. She goes, don't tell them anything, okay? Because they'll probably try to ask you if they reach out, don't tell them anything. That was another thing that I was like, huh? I didn't say anything because I had just got the news, so I'm all over the place. But I can't even fucking put it into words. But the point is, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking in the back of my head in that moment, just for a split second, why is she telling me not to tell? These are family members. Now, granted, we all don't have the best, mom has her own experiences. I'm not going to tell her side, her story. That's her story to tell. But I know one thing, I'm going to tell my story. And I have every right to do it. Publicly, privately, either or both. But I know that the family hadn't always been peaches and rainbows and daffodils and butterflies and bumblebees. I already know that. But my point is, why would you tell me not to say anything? Like, what? So that, to me, that looks like you're hiding something. Again, I hope you're following me as to why I'm feeling like, do you have a hand in this? Then the life insurance policy comment, then all this other stuff, and nobody knows anything, and don't tell, this side of the family this, and all, huh? Now, here's the kicker. After that conversation, my mom then said, I'll call you back after I get more information on the situation. Do y'all know that she never called me back? Mind you, I'm already distraught, distressed. 2 days had passed by, not a text message. Well, there was a text message 2 days later. Let me take that back. There was a text message saying, hey, sorry I couldn't get back to you. She's explaining what she had to arrange with the memorial, all of that. I totally get that. But here's the thing. How long does it take to make a phone call that you said that you would do and make that same day? It doesn't take but 1 to 2 minutes. Hey, whoop, wop, 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 I'm sorry, blah, blah, but this is what I found out, or I haven't found anything out yet. Do what you say you're going to do. Especially with this situation, knowing how sensitive it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, why? But at least you sent the text 2 days later, right? So mind you, I'm pissed at this point because I'm like, here we go again. Here we go again. You do all this extra shit to get my attention and let me know that, but then leave me hanging when information needs to be divulged. Why? So, of course, I lost my shit. I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, this is not the first time that you've alienated me from serious family situations where somebody was passing, and you just completely shut me out. I think it's fucked up. I think it's sick. And I know it's wrong. It's wrong. I don't care if it upsets you to hear that about yourself. It is wrong what you're doing and what you did and how you're doing it. Don't tell me you're going to call me back if you know goddamn well you're going to avoid my calls and not tell me shit. So what did I do? I had to literally search up. Thank God I knew the city and state that they were in, right? I started there. I had to search for the contact information for that particular county's coroner's office. I had to figure out how to purchase the case and autopsy report. I had to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had to go and find this out. Then I've got some other information that I won't go into too much detail about, but I think I might know who's involved. But I'm going to leave that alone. Point is, what my mother told me happened was not in that case report or autopsy report. Not even close to what she said. So now I want everybody to understand where I'm coming from. Now I'm like, no, something's wrong. Even the details in that report, something's wrong. There's not enough information here. How come nobody's asking any questions? How come nobody's asking, how did we get to this point? Do we have do they have the weapon? Did they do fingerprints? Did they talk to everybody that spoke to him last? Did they do anything? Is anybody doing anything? So all I know is this. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that the truth comes out with that situation. I don't care what it is I have to do. That is my little brother. We are family. We have a right to know who was involved, what was said, how it led up to that, and why. And we need it to be cross-referenced and checked by the authorities to know what the truth is. But I just think it's fucked up that I have to go to these extents to find the truth for myself and my little brother. But I wanted to share this with all of you so you know. Number one, so the family can know what's really going on my end. Number two, so I can get it out in the open and hopefully find someone who can assist with this. And number three, if somebody is dealing with this or has dealt with this or knows somebody or is close to someone that has dealt with something like this, please do your part to be there and be supportive. Do your part to at least have the courage to speak out about what it is that you're dealing with. Have the courage to speak out if you feel like something is wrong. If you feel like something needs to be investigated a bit more. If you feel like there are a lot of unanswered questions that need to be answered. Find a way to find the resources, the connections, the people necessary to get that done. As much as it hurts to deal with a loss like that, and it hurts every damn day. I have bouts of crying every day, especially dealing with it alone without the family. And they can say whatever they want, but I know what I've done. I know that I've tried to atone for those things, and at the same time, they have not atoned for theirs. So I don't want to hear it. Not to mention all the lies I heard going behind my back. What type of parent does that to their child? Why am I being shut out in this situation? Are you hiding something? Like, there are reasons behind why I feel this way. And I'm sorry to be yelling about it, you guys, but this is not something that I take lightly at all. And I'm not trying to make it about me. I'm saying I need to know what the fuck happened to my brother. We need to know what the fuck happened and why, because something is not right. I have a lot of questions that have no answers, and that's a problem. So, if anybody knows of any resources or ways to try to figure out this type of information, or have anybody that you know that has the ability and the resources and connections to be able to get down to the bottom of these types of things, or if you guys have any experiences of your own that you would love to share, please do. Because this has been hard. Now I'm doing my own work and due diligence in the background and will continue to until the truth is out. But I wanted to come on here and share this update with you on what exactly I was told, what I'm now finding out about this situation, and the truth, period. I have every right to speak my truth on my channel about my situation with my family members. I have every right to do that. And if people don't like it, I don't want them a part of my community. Simple and plain. People should not be afraid to speak out about things that they feel like are going on that are wrong. People shouldn't be made to feel guilty about doing that, especially if they tried to reach out to the people that could possibly potentially help them that's within the family and never got any responses back. For real. Okay? So that's what this is for, you guys. Now, granted, like I said, I'm not trying to sit here and yell at you guys. I'm not trying to yell at anybody, but this is how upset it gets me, thinking about all of this and thinking about how it shouldn't be like this. And guys, just know that you aren't alone for those of you that may have a family dynamic similar to this, where you've dealt with being alienated and isolated from the family, even after you've tried to make amends and right your wrongs and all of that. Even after you've tried to have dialogue and all that for years and years and years and years and try to initiate contact for years and years and years and never getting it reciprocated back. Just know you are not alone. I know it's hard. Now, I'm in the angry stage, which I feel like is good. I'm in the angry stage. Because God damn it, I don't deserve that, and nobody else deserves that, especially if they're doing their part to try to do better and get the family together and try to make peace and all of that. Know that you're not alone. Have the courage to speak up and speak out when you see something wrong or when something just doesn't seem quite right, and get the people around you that truly support you, because I don't know what could come of this video. Hopefully, and my goal is to try to find somehow, some way to get down to the bottom of the truth. That's it. And to tell people what's really going on from my end. So, that is my update, guys. Drop it in the comments below if you guys have any suggestions as stated before. But I'm going to go take a chill pill and I'm going to work on this reading for you guys. I just needed to knock this out beforehand. But until next time, y'all, stay blessed, not stressed. Stay strong out there. Peace and love.